Every single day, there are these invisible architects making decisions about your life. They're operating in the background of your phone, your computer, and even in the systems that could decide your future. These architects are algorithms. And in this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you how this invisible code is quietly shaping human fate. And it usually starts in ways that feel, well, almost magical, right? You open a music app and boom, it serves up the exact song you wanted to hear. It's so effortless, it's like the system just gets you. Okay, so then you're scrolling through social media, and your feed is just perfectly tailored. The articles, the videos, the opinions, they all seem to line up with exactly how you see the world. It's this cozy, personalized reality that's been built, just for you. But then the magic just stops. You apply for a job, a loan, maybe an apartment, and the answer comes back almost instantly. No. No explanation. No person to talk to. The very same invisible system that picks your music is now making these huge, critical decisions about your life. And this, right here, is where our story really begins. So what exactly is this invisible hand that's guiding our digital lives? Let's break down what an algorithm really is and see how it became the silent architect of, well, our opportunities. At its core, an algorithm is actually surprisingly simple. Just think of it like a recipe. A recipe tells you to mix flour, eggs, and sugar to get a cake, right? Well, an algorithm tells a computer to look at a bunch of data, find patterns in it, and then make a prediction. The huge difference, though, is that these digital recipes are now making life-altering decisions at a speed and scale that is just impossible for any human. And the reach of these decisions, it is absolutely staggering. This isn't just about what ads you see or what movie to watch next. We're talking about the absolute fundamentals of modern life. Your career, your finances, the information that shapes how you see the world, your freedom, and even your health. Every single one is now influenced by some kind of algorithmic gatekeeper. All right, so let's start with the place we bump into these systems the most, our own screens. This is where algorithms build our personalized realities. And as we're about to see, they can quietly push us into our own little information silos. Okay, so let's imagine two people. We'll call them Alex and Jordan. They both go online and search for the exact same topic, immigration policy. But the algorithm shows them completely different worlds. Alex gets a feed full of positive narratives. Jordan sees a feed full of negative ones. They're living in totally different realities, and neither of them has any idea. In fact, both of them become more certain that their version is the absolute truth. So how does this even happen? Well, it's all about this really powerful feedback loop. The algorithm learns what you click on, what you engage with, so it shows you more of that. This, of course, reinforces what you already believe, which makes you more confident in your views. And then the system learns from that confidence and can start pushing you toward even more polarizing content because it's figured out that's what keeps you glued to the screen. It's basically confirmation bias on steroids. And look, this isn't just some theory. This quote comes from a real-world experiment. A journalist started watching a single fringe video on YouTube, and the platform's recommendation algorithm just took over, quickly suggesting more and more extreme conspiracy theories. The system isn't built for truth, it's built for engagement. And it turns out, extreme stuff is just super engaging. As powerful as these echo chambers are, and they are powerful, the stakes get so much higher when these systems jump off our screens and start making concrete decisions about our actual lives. Okay, first case up, Amazon. The company tried to build an AI to automate its hiring process. The idea was pretty straightforward. Feed the system resumes of people who were successful in the past and let it find the best new candidates. What could go wrong? Well, here's the thing. The historical data was biased. Because the tech industry has historically been male-dominated, the AI just learned that successful people are men. So it started penalizing resumes that had words like women's, like in women's chess club captain. It literally taught itself sexism, filtering out thousands of totally qualified female applicants before a human being ever even saw their name. All right, next up, let's talk about your wallet. Back in 2019, Apple launched its credit card, and the credit limits were all set by an algorithm. It was supposed to be completely objective. But then these stories started popping up. Husbands were getting credit limits up to 20 times higher than their wives, even when the wives had better credit scores. And the official response? It's just the algorithm. But that algorithm had learned from decades of historical lending data, a history where women were systematically given worse credit terms than men. Now, the problem even extends into the courtroom. There's an algorithm called Compass that's used in some parts of the US to generate a risk score for defendants, basically predicting how likely they are to commit another crime. And judges use these scores to help decide things like bail and sentencing. An investigation by ProPublica found something just shocking. The algorithm was consistently wrong, but in totally opposite directions for Black and white defendants. See, it learned from historical crime data, which itself reflects all kinds of systemic biases in policing and arrests. So the algorithm ended up just baking in that bias, creating this awful feedback loop, where a biased prediction could lead to a longer sentence. And our final case takes us right into the doctor's office. A really widely used algorithm was designed to find high-risk patients who needed extra medical care. I mean, sounds like a good idea, right? A noble goal? But its logic was fatally flawed. To figure out who was sick, it used past healthcare costs as a proxy for sickness. The problem? Because of systemic inequities, Black patients often get less care, and so they spend less money, even when they're just as sick as white patients. The algorithm basically mistook less care for better health. And because of that, hundreds of thousands of Black patients were wrongly flagged as not needing extra attention.
So, when you look at hiring, finance, justice, healthcare, you start to see a really clear pattern emerge. So, why does this keep happening? We've got to get to the root of the problem.
And here it is, the fundamental truth. Algorithms are not born biased. They're reflections. They learn from the data we feed them. And if that data is a record of our history of sexism, racism, and all our other prejudices, then the algorithm will learn to be sexist, racist, and prejudiced. It doesn't just mirror our flaws, it automates them, and then it amplifies them at a scale that's just hard to even imagine. And this brings us to the last and maybe the toughest challenge this technology presents. It's not just about the bias itself, it's about our inability to see it or to fight back against it.
Think about it. If a person discriminates against you, you can challenge them. But how do you challenge a black box? These systems so often operate with zero transparency. There's no appeal process, no explanation given, and no one to hold accountable when a decision feels wrong. You're just left with the outcome.
And really, that's what it all comes down to. The code that's shaping our lives is invisible. Its decisions feel cold and objective, but they are built on a very messy foundation of human bias. And until we can demand transparency and accountability, we're kind of at the mercy of its silent and often unfair judgment. Because the simple truth is, we can't fix what we can't even see.